repeated. Why we say that? I mean, there must be some reason, isn't it? Well, let's create a table which will have a repetition in the names, and then let's talk about that. So in this case, what is the best approach, or maybe the only approach, right? So I have a table here, the same table. Let's say I go and write here name, employee ID 23 is Sushil. Okay, let's say 45 is Ajay. Let's say 66 is Sunil. Okay, let's say it's Rajat. Let's say it's Ritika. Let's say it's Josna. Okay, let's say it's Riti. Let's say this is Suresh. Let's say this is Venkat. Okay, let's say this is one more Ajay. Let's say one more Sushil. Okay, now you have this data with you, and let me delete this. Now I give you again same situation. I say that employee ID and the name. VLOOKUP is a very big topic, you know, guys. It is a very big topic. The good thing is that because it is the most used actually the function in Excel. So we always prefer using this because in Excel we use we always have this sort of requirement of searching the information. The point is that amount of time you will spend on the VLOOKUP, and once you understand the entire Excel from that VLOOKUP perspective, the next formula will be very easy for you, right? So I have here, let's say, these IDs. Okay, these IDs. Now I'll go and put this Sushil again here. I'll just take one example, or maybe one more. Let's say this one. Now, in this case, if I ask you, I want product score. Okay, and let me remove this. I want product score. Now here, when you look at the data, employee IDs are always unique. We all know that, right? In your company, employee ID is never going to be repeated, even if you are in a different department. We all been given, a unique employee IDs. So they will not have any duplicacy, but the name can have, of course. So first, let's understand that why we say that lookup should be the one which is unique and which is also available in both the tables. This is also something you should write. Lookup should be unique because I may have employee ID unique, but if it is not there, then how will you connect two tables? There has to be one column, common column. So lookup should be unique and available in both tables so that they can converse with each other. That's how it. Okay. So here we have now the product. Now the first thing is when you use VLOOKUP, for example, using the name, because I was telling you that why not to use the name. In this case, there will be a problem. The problem is you select K6 and you start your table from here, right? Like this. I hope all of you know about this shortcut key when I select the data like this quickly. And I hope you don't use those the steps, uh, right arrow, left arrow. If you do not know, I'm telling you, I just write it down. Select the table, say Control Shift right arrow. Control Shift right arrow will take you to the last non-blank cell. Because if it is a Control Shift right arrow, so it will move in the right direction. Now from here, I will again press Control Shift. I keep my Control Shift on. I have pressed it. Now I'm going to use down arrow. Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down arrow. Same way, Control Shift up arrow also works. Control Shift left arrow also works. Like for example, if I keep my table like this, if I want to select the table from here, Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift up arrow. Okay, this is quick. Okay, let me press comma. So now what is my column number? My column number is what I want to find. I want to find product. So in this table, product is on the third column. You will go and write like this, right? We will freeze the table like this. Now Can we drag? Let's go and check that. This is the problem now. See that. And see for Ajay also. You're getting the same answer back. Why? Because it's very simple. You said VLOOKUP find out Sushil. VLOOKUP go and find out the Sushil. Why it will move and further and try to find out another Sushil? No, never. Because its search is done, it stops, and it returns you 56. So that means VLOOKUP will never be able to get you on the second Sushil or second Ajay or any name which is repeating. Now, before you ask me, so there's no solution in Excel? Of course, there is a solution, but for that we have to learn a couple of more formulas. And using that, you can make your VLOOKUP even workable on such scenarios. Have you ever imagined that VLOOKUP can also find out for those who know that VLOOKUP doesn't work if lookup is repeating? I tell you, yes, you can make it work, but not now. I mean, we will go and see to that later. Right now, this is a wrong choice. Okay, that's why, because when it finds Ajay, it stops. It never goes here. It never goes here. So in this case, I will go and use my employee ID. So I'll not write it, but you know that if you use the employee ID, it will always be based on the employee ID, not based on the name. So now you know that VLOOKUP has to be a unique also and a common field in both the tables also. It should be available. Otherwise, tables will not be able to talk to each other. Now, who has a question related to this topic? If I have left anything, ask me. Otherwise, I'll move forward.
Hi, hi Ajay, can you tell how to connect lookups in different sheets? Like if we have,
Well,
yes.
of course, that's we are heading towards that. But I'm saying anything related to within this scope, whatever we have covered. Okay, so I think now all your doubts are answered. Now, let's quickly go one
Ajay,
thing.
hello Ajay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my one question is that we are putting the table number, sorry, the column number. So like you have a 1,000 by 1,000 column versus row table, and then
Yeah, that's my next thing.
okay, good. So
Next
so
thing.
how to get that number
Yeah,
and then put it in here.
absolutely. Okay, so now, of course, that's how you. I say that's the actual the VLOOKUP. If you know that how to rotate that, because whatever you have done so far, that's not exactly as a advanced Excel user I prefer, because I have to write column every time manually. So guys, now what he's saying, let me also repeat that. Uh, he's saying that, and the topic is, you have 66, you have 78, and you have 33, and you have 78. Okay, now I have here IGP and I have a department. There can be more than one header also, right? So fine. My question to you is that, can we just go and write the VLOOKUP in one cell, and can we go and drag this left to right and then in the downward direction and get the results? Yes, we can. Okay, first I'll tell you that the next thing which he's saying, and which is the topic, that why I have to write 3 in the column index number manually, and for department 5, and for profile 6. Can we not do some sort of automation, so we can just go and write the function and drag this, and automatically IGP column number which is 3 and the department which is 5 and the profile 6 should auto populate here, right? So how we can do that? So I hear some disconnections. No. Okay. So the first thing, guys, I want to make you comfortable in left to right also. Because you see, when you write the formula, you may have here 15 headers. Right now, in the previous sessions, there was only one header, which is very silly, because that's not how the VLOOKUP is. Generally, data is always big. It always has 7, 8, 10, 15, 20, even more than that, headers, right? So I'm giving you now practical example. What if you have 3 headers or maybe more than 3? If you learn how to work with 3 headers, you can work with the 30 headers also at the same time. So you see, you have already learned everything. We just need to make sure that how to freeze the columns. Now, first thing is that I want IGP, so I go and write VLOOKUP and I select this and I press comma, right? All agree because it's my employee ID, so I start the table. Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift right arrow, and of course left arrow, up arrow, down arrow. Okay, this is to select the data from selection. So if I'm here, I say Control Shift right arrow, Control Shift down arrow. If I'm here, I say Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow. Yeah. So this is the now the task. Let's go and do it. We look up employee ID and select the table and column number. So I think I was looking for product, right? Let me see that. But if it is product, then 4 and 0. I press enter. No, it's IGP. So this is 3, right? Let me do this quickly. Now I have to go and write this formula everywhere because the column will change. Well, first of all, let's do this way. If you go and drag this formula left to right, is it going to work? It's not working. Why it is not working? We have to check now, right? When you press F2, now before you press F2, as I said, keep this in the left. Okay, now I press F2. You see, your table has moved, guys. Blunder. If this is your table, VLOOKUP will pick this now because this is now the left column, right? And what it is going to find it out in this table? That's another question. Your lookup is also changed. Why it is changed? Because left to right columns increments. I hope we know this. Again, I'm repeating, right? Golden rules. Your K7 is now L7. So if your K is changed to L, as a rule, Excel will always increment the columns left to right. But when it moves in the downward, it does the reverse. It keeps the column same, but it increments the row. That's the rule, right? So C3H13 here have not changed. You can see C3 is same, but B is changed to C and G is changed to H. If I move this down, this 3 will change, 13 will change to 4 and 14, and 7 will change to 8 if I move it down, and the columns will not change, right? So that's the first thing we have to do. You see, I'm finding IGP department or profile, it's always a 66 employee ID, right? So left to right, 66 should not change at all. So you have to make sure this K should be freezed, not 7. Remember that, not the 7 of K, not the 7 of K7. This we will keep it as it is because when I go down, K7 will be K8. Do I need K8? Yes, because that's my employee ID. Do I need K9? Yes, because that's my employee ID, right? So we have to figure it out. What we have to log, what we don't have to log. And that's called the cell referencing, the use of the dollar. So I make sure the table should also not change. If you have noticed, if you remember the last time I only freeze the 3 because I was not moving the column left, the formula left to right. There was only one header, so I was just moving it downward. But here now, if you just freeze the 3 and 13, what happens? Left to right, B will be C and G will be H. So your column will start moving like this, like this. If you have more headers, then it keeps on shifting. So we don't want that. So here now I completely freeze both the B and the row and the column. We'll freeze both. Okay. Once your formula is done, now when you go and drag this, you don't get the error. And you can use F2. You see that employee ID is now 63. It is 66. That means good. This means that at least the cell referencing part is working, right? So my cell referencing is okay. Why I'm getting department as 63? Because I have to change this now to 5. So I change this to 5. Then again I copy and paste. Now profile should be 6. Right? Once this is done, I select this and I say double click here, or maybe you can drag. It's all up to you. If you double click here, automatically formula will expand. Formula will go to the last row of this table because formula knows that your table stops here. So you can even double click on this plus sign. Go on the extreme, this right bottom corner, and because one is this plus sign, the thick one, the white one, and one is this, the slim one. So just go and click on that. You have the answer, right? Now, if you have any difficulty in understanding why we have logged the K or the B or G, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will now tell you that how to go and change the values if the header changes. You see department, IGP, nothing is changing. Why nothing is changing? Because you have to go and give the department now as 5, right? And drag this. And here, if it is IGP, you have to go and give this as 3 because column number has to be changed, isn't it? So I want this to be dynamic. When I write the formula, I don't want to write 5 or 6 or 7. I want this should come automatically. So to understand that, we have to learn a function called match, which seems very boring, which seems very useless, because match function gives you the row number or column number of your lookup. And you might say that, why would I need that? So as a standalone function, match may look like an average function, below average, but when it gets with the VLOOKUP or other functions also, it changes the entire episode. I'll show you. See, you have Jan, you have Feb, you have March, you have April, you have May, sort of this. Now what if I ask you, for example, that get me the position of February in your table? You can say position also, right? Or you can say row number also, right? What is the row number of your this lookup item in this table, right? Or maybe position also, but you will never say what is the column number of this item. Why? Because the point is, we are looking up Feb. Tomorrow I may say April, right? They all are in the same column. This table is flowing downward. This is not going horizontal. So when anything goes downward, vertical, it is the row index which changes, not the column, right? If I write the table like this, going column wise, of course, you all can say left to right, but what if I say column wise? Is your table moving column wise? Is your table moving row wise? So you have to understand these terms. My table is moving actually column wise. Why we say column wise? Because columns are always go in this direction. You know that, right? Rows are always goes in this direction. So I can't, if I have to find out something, let's say if I have to find out, I say that I want to find out the, the position of these lookups, so you always say that, basically position means column. Is this on the first column, second column, third column, fourth column, fifth column? You never say that row because they all are on the same row. Understand the point also. The row, why we say row number, why we say column index number, right? So here I'm going to find out the row number or position of April, let's say, in this table where it is. So how will you do that? It's not the VLOOKUP. When I start with this question, sometimes students say that we will use the VLOOKUP, but if you're using the VLOOKUP, my question is, what do you want to gather? What do you want to gather? Nothing. Is there any other header? Do you want to find any information related to April? Any sort of performance, revenue, loss, profit? No, you don't use VLOOKUP. We are not actually looking up information. We want to look up the position. So when you say position, in this case it is vertical, so we can say row number. We use match. How many parameters match has? Only three. You can see lookup, comma, lookup array, comma, match type. Lookup value is the one you want to look up. Lookup array, again, table. You select the table. And then what? Less than, exact, greater than. Well, exact for the time being. Let's not talk about less than or greater than. Exact. So we write 0. Okay. Let's press enter. You have your position. So can I not say that in my table, the April is on the 4th row? Don't get confused with the ranking. This is not a ranking, right? Ranking is different. Ranking means according to your performance. You may have an April here and you may have the highest revenue in April. So ranking of April month is going to be the first one. We are not talking about ranking. Rank is another formula. We are talking just about the position. So what if I change this to Jan? You'll get 1. What if I change this to June? You'll get 6. Now you may, as I said, that you may think that, I never use this. I mean, I never actually had this kind of requirement, where I have to find out the positions. I mean, most of the time you don't, but we have to learn this. Now, what if I go and just to confuse you, I put here some numbers also. Let's say Jan performance, profits. Okay, let's say. Now again, I ask you that get me the position of June. Many of you would do this. Select the lookup and table. Yeah, you will do this. I know it. And you say exact match. Then what is the issue? The issue is, please remember this rule. Like you now know, VLOOKUP works on a unique item. It should not be repeated. And that item, that field should be available in other table also. Same way, match also has a rule. It always one column or one row as its data range, table range. You cannot provide more than one column if it is a vertical table. You cannot provide. There will always be one column. Which one column? Well, that depends on the lookup. Like for example, if I have here some maybe other numbers also, maybe let's say you have some numbers like this, right? So you shouldn't be getting confused that which one I have to select. Obviously, if you're trying to find out the month, you will always go and target the month. That's it. So this is returning you the position, or I can say row number. Okay, so this is wrong. Now what if you have a table in the horizontal direction like this? Can match find out the position of Mayur? Let's say I write here Mayur. Yes, match can do that in horizontal direction also. Match, select E18 table. You will never select the table like this because now your table is holding 2 rows. Not allowed. Only one row. The one where you have to find the lookup. You have to remember this, okay? 0. What will you get? You will get position of Mayur, which is correct. I hope all of you agree. What if I change this to Ravi? You get 5. What if I change this to Venkat? You get 6. What if I change this to Sunil? You get 1. Why I'm telling you this? What is the relationship of this thing with VLOOKUP? Can anyone tell me?
It will change the column number automatically.
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, guys, if I change the lookup, the column number automatically changes. Can I not call this a column number? Can I call this or not? Tell me. Your table is this. If I ask you how many columns you have in this table, you can say 6. Sorry? So it has 6 columns. If I say that Mayur, Excel is all case insensitive, right? So you can write a small also. You can say that Mayur is in the 4th position. But if I say that, okay, so that 4th position is a column position or row position, you will never say row because they are all on the same row. Your table is moving left to right. You'll say that this is my 4th column. Mayur stands on the 4th position, or Mayur is the 4th column of your table. So let's come back to the VLOOKUP now and create a one more sheet, and let's use the combination of VLOOKUP and match. Okay. So VLOOKUP, match. Now see, I go and delete all this. I go here and say match. What do you want to match? I want to find out the position of my this header, which previously I was doing it manually. I was putting a constraint on my eyes to find out where is that department in that long table which has 40 headers, right? But now I don't have to put any efforts. Why? Because now I have a match, and match will use its own eyes, right? And it's a non-human thing, so it can find it out infinite times for me, not a problem. Lookup department. Okay, tell me the table. This is your table. Is it okay to select the table like this? No. You have a VLOOKUP habit, so I'm warning you again. Don't do that. So what should be the table? Only this. Okay? Listen to this lecture carefully because then I will have a question. Done. Exact match? Yes, exact match. Okay, cool. Can we press enter? You have 5. This 5 I'm going to use here. This one. But before I do that, do I need to write one more match here? No. You know, if I go and drag this left to right, it should give me all the values automatically, because you see your L6 left to right will be this one and then this one. So automatically your lookup will change. You have to make sure that the column should not move, because if you go and I show you, see, if you go and just say control, if you just move it to the right side, you will get the answer, but it is a wrong answer. Getting an answer doesn't mean formula can, is correct always. No. See, why are you getting IGPS 2? Because your table now shifted. It was actually starting from employee ID, but now it starts from C because B is now C, left to right. The Excel golden rule, So if you are asking match to find out the column number of IGP or position in this column, obviously it will return 2. So is it good to use 2? Can we use this 2? No, you can't use this 2. Why? Why? Because for your VLOOKUP table, 2 is name. 2 is not this. So ultimately VLOOKUP will return names in front of IGP. So we have to make sure my starting and the end of both the functions VLOOKUP and match should be the same. Otherwise this will be a confusion, because ultimately this 2 will be supplied to VLOOKUP in its column number, and VLOOKUP will find out 66 and then goes to the second, and stops at Sunil. Why? Because for VLOOKUP, this is your table. And in this table, you have a second column, which is this. But for match, because your table was moved, instead of getting IGP as 3, the third position, it gave you second position. You getting the point, right? So we will go and freeze the table. You can freeze it, the complete table. Keep this L6 open because L6 is your department and it has to be IGP and profile. Once you're done with this using match, right? You are able to find out the column number. What is the benefit? Benefit is big. You see, I write IGP. Look at this. Automatically changes. So once you supply this to VLOOKUP in its column number, you can imagine your table will entirely change, isn't it? So now how we can do that? You just go here in the file and you say that I don't want the file, I want you, because you are actually coming by a formula and formula will always change you if I change the header. You do this L12, now you press enter. You're getting the same answer, right? Now, what is the benefit of this? You need to understand. If I go and move this left to right, your L12 will be, what will happen to the L12 when you move it left to right? Except golden rule.
It
L12.
will
It will increase.
It will, yes, it will change L to M. That's the very basic cell referencing. If it changes L to M and 12 will remain 12 because left to right row never changes, you will have your 3 automatically being supplied to the column index parameter. That's great news. But you make sure, don't be overexcited and just run it. Also think about downward direction. If I move this down, you will have error. Why? Because L12 will be L13. You see that? This one, L12 will be L13. We don't need, we don't want that, right? So 12 should be freezed like this. Now we are perfect. Down the line, whether employee ID is 66, 78 or 33, it's always a department and department always captures the 5th. So that's how you do it. So I go and drag this way, and I go and drag this way. You have your answer. Now you have 20 headers, be my guest. I go and say department, I go and say profile, I go and say IGP, yeah, because they are changing. Anyone has any doubt on this part?
We can even use the match formula inside the VLOOKUP.
Yes, that's what we are doing now. Anyone has any problem in understanding the concept? So now you see match has changed your game, right? So it's not you can't say it's an average function. Now once guys,
What I meant was not using it in a different cell, but rather than inserting in the formula itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So now guys, you see Excel is such a deep concept. If you start learning Excel today, it will take at least I say that if you're spending let's say 3-4 hours every day on Excel, it will take minimum 6 months for you to actually understand that core concept, right? Where you will be put on the self-care. Then you don't need any guidance. Then you know actually what are the fundamentals, what is the science behind it. If I know one function, the other function I can learn it faster because every function uses parameters. We just need to provide the parameters. Every function demands you some locking, some unlocking. And the important thing is why actually you need that function. The first challenge is to learn the functions. The second challenge, which is more difficult than this one, is to use the right function, is to identify, is to think on that, that I have list of functions, now which one I should use. This is also a point of confusion for many of us when we just begin the Excel. First you learn it and then after learning, when you go on the practicals, then you think Okay, so here which function should I use? Should I use VLOOKUP? Should I use this function or that function? So please make sure that you understand the concept. When you have to look up anything, you can use VLOOKUP or even match. Match is also lookup function. But if I say that you have to look up now a position, column index number, row number, then you don't use VLOOKUP, then you use actually match. If I say that no, I have to look up some information, means I have to find out IDs or names, marks, scorecard, IGP result, appraisal, salary. You're looking up the information other than the position, so you go and use the VLOOKUP. Now, if I have, so what I was trying to tell you is that there will be a level when you will get fed up of this. You will say that why I wouldn't need to use this. Of course, this is right now looking great, right? But sooner this will be your sort of boring stuff, right? You will hate using it. You will say that I want to use everything in one cell. And that's what we are going to do now. Okay, so I will tell you now how we can use the match inside the VLOOKUP. Yes, there's no helper column, there's no helper row we have to use. But you will always go step by step. Otherwise, you won't be able to achieve this. So we say VLOOKUP. Okay, VLOOKUP. Look up this you already know. Table, VLOOKUP table, right? Now, column number. I want column number, so I will say match. Keep your eyes here. Many times we try to remember the function. We don't even look at these. This is very important. Now you're on the match, so even if you have forgotten the match parameter, but you have practiced in the past, so this will help you. It will remind you that that's what I learned actually. So you don't need to really remember the function. Okay. Lookup. Now what is a lookup for match? You know that for a match, the lookup is your header, which is here, I think, in the L6. You find out that header, which is, I think, product or whatever it is, in this table, comma, 0, right? Now, can you press comma? If you press comma, you don't get anything. Please stop then. Don't go, because your function doesn't need any other parameter. Okay, I close this. Once you close this, you will be back on VLOOKUP. Why? Because VLOOKUP still has one more parameter left. You have to provide that. This is for the column number. So match will now give you the column number. The same formula I have written here. Now I have written inside this comma. Range lookup is coming, which is VLOOKUP range. So now this is for the VLOOKUP exact match. This is for this K7 0, and this 0 is for L6. This 0 is for that. Please find out 77 employee ID, exactly the same 77. Please find out the header, which is, let's say, product. So please find out the product only. Okay, so that's how it is. Now I go and press enter and I have my answer. Now we just need to freeze this because otherwise this will not work. So let's pick the K7. K7 is what? This is left to right, it should not change. Down the line, it should be 78, 33, 78, isn't it? So we just go and say dollar. Oh, sorry. B3 G13 is your entire table. I'll lock this completely because this should not change left to right or maybe in the downward direction. L6. L6 should be M6, N6 left to right. But if you go down, L6 should not be L7. Otherwise, you will lose the profile and match will start then looking something else. Make sense? So 6 should be freezed and B3 to G3. I'm locking the entire table. Don't take table for granted. I mean, don't think that it's always a complete, freezing when it comes to table. There may be some interesting situations where you don't have to lock it. I'll cover that. But right now, because it's a VLOOKUP and match, and the information should always be found in these tables, so that's why we have locked it. Okay, so we're done. You can drag this or copy paste it. You will have the answer. So now doesn't matter you have 20 headers or 40 headers. I hope your automation now will be faster. Okay. So we have covered this VLOOKUP with match. Now you should also understand one thing. Many times when you bring the data in Excel from some CSV file or text file, there may be some issues. Issues like, for example, I'll just keep this very brief. Let's say you have here some ticket numbers, okay, and days to resolve. So let's say I have a ticket number 001. Couple of ticket numbers I have here. Okay, days to resolve 33, 23, 2, 4, and 5. Okay, now we'll say attended by engineer name. Let's say Rakesh, Akhil, Nitin, Amar, and Disha. Now, what I'm doing here is that I go and write a ticket number. I go and write, let's say, these two ticket numbers, okay, and days to resolve and engineer name. Okay. Now, see this. I say we look up this G7, go in this table. For the time being, I'm not using match because I have just only two headers, okay? And because I need days to resolve, I write 2 and 0, okay? Now you have to tell me why I'm getting error. You might be thinking that there might be some cell referencing issue. So before you ask me, I'll just go and show you this in F2 mode. And in the F2, you can see this is my table, which to me looks perfect and the ticket number. But still you have an error. What do you think? What are the possibilities? You guys have you work on Excel, I'm sure. So you might have faced this problem before. Why we're getting the error? Your reference is perfect, right? But you're still getting error. Why?
It's because I see 002. There is space after that,
Cell
so
spacing
it's
is
not matching with
Yes,
the
absolutely.
original
So
number.
yes, so when I was putting the space, so you have noticed that. Wonderful, because it took almost 1 second for me to just write it down. So I thought many of you might have not seen it. Guys, see this. There's a space. Space means one character more, right? Now, even if you go and cross check, so how I use actually do it, of course I can just click here and I can see that there is some problem, but otherwise there's one more thing you can do. You can say equals to this equals to this, right? So they must be true, isn't it?
yes.
They are not true. So if they are not true, then there is a problem. Now you can further go and check that. So if they are not equal, then what is happening? Why don't you just go and check the number of characters? To check the number of characters, we use a length function. You say length of this. Now we all know that it has to be 6, but it's not going to give you 6. So this is the problem now. Same way you can check length of this also. This will come correct because I haven't done anything here. I haven't created spaces, right? So I know that there is a space now. Now maybe you say that, okay, no problem, backspace and done, right? Okay, fine. But imagine if you have 1,000 ticket numbers like this, and out of those 1,000, randomly in between the table, you have 50, 60 IDs which are having space problem. Nobody will be willing to go and do this manually. check that if there is a space or not, right? So what is the way?
We
To
can use remove the
space before the text, after the text, leading spaces and trailing spaces. We have a function in Excel which is called trim. Now, see this. I can say trim. What do you want to trim? Just one parameter. I want to trim this. If it has space, space will be removed. Remember, before and after only, not the middle ones. If it doesn't have space, will it create problem? No, it won't create problem. So I trim this and I go and drag this, right? Now these are the, you can, if you try to find out the length of this function again, you find that there will be no space. You can check that length. This should give us 6. Cool. So now you have a choice. What is the first choice? Instead of using G7, this one, you can use this as your lookup, right? So if you want to do that, of course, you're welcome. You can use this. If you use this, then VLOOKUP will use this as a lookup, which has no spaces, right? What is the other option? Other option is that once you have trimmed all these 100 items, 200 items, you can copy this and you can go here and say paste value. That is also okay. If you say paste value, you see that this is again another method. But what if you want to do everything inside the formula? You don't want to do all these extra steps. We can do that also. What? This is my G7, right? This is my G7. It's all trimming I need to do. So why don't we just go and say trim inside the function and just close this here like this. So trim inner functions will execute first and then the outer functions. So trim will execute G7 and will make it ready for the VLOOKUP, and we have a value. Now there is no need for this. I'm not deleting this. So you remember. So you see that I can trim the lookup inside also. Do you want to see the how it happens behind the curtains? It's very interesting, especially in the if conditions, which we are going to start after this. Go in the formula. First, select the right table. Go in the formula. Evaluate formula. Click on this. Formula comes if you have selected the right cell. Evaluate. If you click on the evaluate, what will happen? Underline item will be executed first. So what is in the G7? See that. This is the one. Now, what is underlined? The entire trim. You have a space removed. There we go. Now VLOOKUP will use this as a lookup. So evaluate formula is very useful, especially in the long formula. This is just a very small formula, very small thing for us. So we may not require it, but I just wanted to show you, that you can actually evaluate the formulas also sometimes in case if you're not understanding the steps. Now once this is done, I just need to go and move this left to right, and of course now for example if you want to use match here, if you have more headers, of course instead of the 2 you can use match also. So we have match, trim, VLOOKUP in one function. So I say match me this day, and then in this table, right, this table, and say 0, right. I click here, yeah. So match is now looking up days in B3 to D3. It should return us the column number, exact column number, and then you have a VLOOKUP false, which is 0, right? That's how. You see that? That's how. So we press enter. Okay. Now you have entered too many arguments. What does this mean? Well, it means that my function demands 2 arguments. 2 arguments means that those which you use comma, 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 input values. But I have provided, I think, more than 2. Let me check that. Now, this is a practical now situation, right? I was not prepared for it, neither you. So both of us can work together on this. First, you know that now why the error is coming. If you want to be perfect in Excel or other things like VBA or any programming language, the best way is to always, when you have an error, find out the reason why this error comes. instead of going in the Google or rebuilding the entire structure. Okay, you enter too many arguments. So this function says I have not those many inputs, as you have provided. So let's go and check which one I'm missing. So I say, okay, now how I'm going to check that? Well, the good thing is for me right now, it highlighted this 0, and my experience is that there can't be 2 0 here. I don't know why I have written this typo mistake, because when you are on the 0, you see that nothing gets highlighted. Otherwise, in any table, if you go, it always gives you that parameter name. When you select here, you have a lookup. This is a very good way of understanding the formula for beginners. If they forget that what was the parameter meant for, why we have written there. When you click here, you remember, oh, this is my trim. This is my lookup, right? If you go inside the trim, it shows you about the trim. So for trim, this is a text. But for VLOOKUP, if you click here, it's a lookup. So if you don't remember what is B3, click on the B3. What is highlighted? Table. If you forget what is H6, I know this is H6, but what is it? Click here. It is a match lookup. So when you click on this 0, it tells you exact match. When you click on this, it tells you nothing. And that's where the problem is, right? And when you click here, before we press enter, let's make sure now we are using all the parameters. It shows me the VLOOKUP. So that means this is also a parameter considered. I press enter, there we go, right? Now it's allowing me to enter the formula because the formula is correct technically. Now who will tell me that why we are getting the error here? Now
It's because days is not matching to days to resolve, I guess.
yes, because you see now for those who are still wondering that why we're getting the error, you see the best way is you can just go and click on the evaluate formula, because now we have 3 functions together, and you can see the sort of do the post-mortem of this. G7 evaluate, is it coming or not? Yeah, it's coming. Okay, now it's going to be trimmed because this is underlined. It is trimmed. So far trim has no issue. We are okay with the trim. Okay, then let's go for the match. H6. In the H6 you have days, so that means match is looking up days and the days is coming here. Now match will find out the days for me in B3 and it should give me the the column number, right? This is what our understanding is on match. So when I click on the evaluate, you find that it's the match which is the culprit. Now if you're using match inside VLOOKUP and match doesn't give you a column number, how VLOOKUP can give you the value? Now why so now you have to find out that why this match has not returned me the answer. So I'll tell you, for those who for them this might be a very new thing. You can again go and click on the value, restart it, right? Let's go and check that again, like this. So now you know that this is days B3 to D3. So you will check each and everything. I know that. You will check B3 to D3. You say B3 to D3. Huh? This is coming correct. Then you will say comma 0. Yes, exact match. This is also correct. Then only this thing left. Okay, so this will come with the experience. 1 or 2 times if this error comes, next time it won't even take you 1 second to find out the reason. You will never use this for this reason, the evaluate formula. Okay, so it's actually days. Now days is not there. For you it might be the same header. For Excel it's not. As you have seen, even a space matter. So either you change this to days or you change this to days to resolve. It's all up to you. Okay, so I'll just change this to days. You have answer. Uppercase, lowercase doesn't matter, but spelling should be. And same here. This is so. Let's quickly freeze this. So this G7 should be $G7. My table should be B4 to D8. Table freeze H6. This should be $6, right? And this is completely freeze. So now we have this function which can go anywhere and can handle my spaces also, like this. About trim, please remember that if I write here, let's say Manish Gupta, you cannot go and remove this space. Okay, because this is Excel, treat this as a normal entry, right? So don't expect this. Only space before Manish or after Gupta will be removed. But having said so, if you have a lot of spaces, you see this. Now, if you use a trim, what will happen now? This is also wonderful. You will have a one space, but the others will be removed. Okay, so that's how we use the trim. What if you have a spaces in the ticket number here? Then what will you have done? What would you have done if let's say after the space here? Now you see again the error comes. Now the problem is not in this ticket number. The problem is here, and this cannot be taken into the formula. Some people what they do, they say that okay, trainer has told me to trim. So what they do, you know, they start trimming the entire table like this also. I'm telling you. Trim does not use a table, it uses single text. If you have a problem in that main table, you better go and set it here like this. Okay, so trim this, then copy this and paste it here again, paste value. Or maybe if you don't want to do that, just change your reference because now you have a trim item here. You make sure that table should be starting from here, and then match should also start from here, because if I press enter, you see that you're getting here ticket number. Why you getting here ticket number? Because when you trim this G7, which is your this ticket number, it is trimmed. When the match finds out this H6, which is days, you have asked the match to find out this in B3 to D3. But so if match searches, match gives you 2. But now your VLOOKUP starts from here. So ultimately you're telling VLOOKUP that look, when you find this ticket, you have to go to the second column. तो mismatch हो गया आपका, तो mismatch होगा तो इसको भी आपको यहाँ से यहाँ करना पड़ेगा D3 to D3. तभी तो कॉलम, क्योंकि जब मैच यहाँ से फाइंड आउट करेगा ये empty है, so what? It will be considered 1, 2 and 3. Then you have an answer. Okay, like this. So it depends, you know, आपके पास इशू किस तरीके का आ रहा है. Okay. So now let's go to the next thing, which is my if functions. Let's talk about the if functions. So in the if, we have single if and if or nested if. Single if is like, you know, you use just one condition. If and is that you have multiple conditions, and all should be true. I'll just explain you. This is again multiple conditions, and any of the condition can be true. And this is actually one condition inside another condition. Somebody is not on mute. Please check. Now, why we need the if, guys? So if are called logical functions. They're not lookup. You can't look up the information using if functions. Okay? Logical functions. Logical function means if this happens, then do this, otherwise do this. So you have always a criteria, and criteria gives you back either true or false, and basis that true false, you go and work. If the employer ID is associated with us more than 5 years, give the 20% accretion, otherwise 5% accretion, like this.